Hello YouTube, Red Suit Studs here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the LEGO Star Wars Hoth ATST. We're going to be unboxing it, building it, and reviewing it today. So without further ado, let's get started. To start us off, here is our box for the Hoth ATST. You can see we have Darth Vader in the corner here, kind of denoting that it's part of the classic Star Wars line or the original trilogy line of LEGO Star Wars sets. Coming in at 586 pieces. It is $49.99 retail, which is a pretty good price for how many pieces you get. And so then on the back here, we can kind of see all the different features that come with this set, such as the swiveling head and the opening of the bay door on the top, the little missiles on the sides that you kind of push to shoot out, and then the posable legs. And then you kind of get a little scene here of the rebels fighting the Empire there. And then you get your minifigure actual size dimensions there, and then you also get a little Imperial crest here with some Hoth troopers there as well. So let's open it up and check out the instruction manual. So here's our instruction booklet, nothing too fancy. We got our Darth Vader on the front again, as well as the QR code for the digital instructions. Just a little bit of a app advertisement here for the building instructions online, and then just a little tutorial about the brick separator as well. So nothing too fancy here. However, I would like to point out how the instruction booklets are actually kind of a higher quality now. In recent years, they're kind of thicker and not put together with staples like some of the old ones here. You can see the old ATST, it's just kind of put together with staples and it's kind of flimsy. But these newer ones, they're actually like kind of bound together with, I assume, some kind of glue or something. But anything kind of like above $39.99, from what I can tell, kind of has the nicer bound booklets, and some of the smaller sets still kind of do the staples like the old ones, but pretty much anything $40 and above kind of uses those nicer booklets. So with all that being said, let's get building. One more thing before I continue with the video. I know you all know what this is. I've hidden a LEGO Minikit somewhere in the background of this video. Let me know in the comments where you were able to find it. Alright, so before we get into the actual ATST itself, let's go over the minifigures in the set. So starting us off, we have our Chewbacca minifigure, and you can see on his fur there, he has some white speckles, which is snow. So this Chewbacca minifigure is actually exclusive to this Hoth ATST, because we've never had a Chewbacca with snowy fur before. So all the other pieces are the same, his bowcaster and his torso, but his actual legs, you can see there's some snow on the feet as well, and then the actual piece that goes over the body and his head is what's exclusive to this set with the snow on there. Next up we have our Hoth Rebel Trooper, and I believe that this one is also technically exclusive. There are some variations of this in other sets out right now, like the Defensive Hoth, and it has, one of the minifigures has a similar torso and legs and kind of helmet and backpack, but I think the face being interchanged with those other pieces is what makes this one exclusive. But it's pretty similar to other Hoth Troopers we've gotten in the past, nothing too fancy. You can take the goggles off the top of the hat there and kind of put them down on the front so that they're actually wearing it. But yeah, nothing too crazy from other Hoth Troopers we've seen before. And then we have our actual ATST driver, and he is also exclusive to this set. I really like how they did the new mold on the helmet here with the goggles up on top. The torso and legs are also new, and I like how they gave him a little pistol and binoculars too. That was nice. But yeah, this one is exclusive to this set as well, because it's a new redesign with kind of the specific Hoth attire, as opposed to some of the other ATST drivers that just kind of have the gray. But this one is actually suited to be in Hoth, so this one is specific to this set. And finally, I want to talk about the probe droid here in the minifigure section, because even though it isn't technically a minifigure, I just kind of want to get it out of the way so we can actually focus on the actual build of the ATST itself next. So you get a little probe droid build in this set, and I really like how they did the legs with all the different like droid part pieces and kind of a pistol, because I believe when they land it kind of turns and becomes a foot on that one leg there. And then you get like a little pincer piece and some droid hands and wrenches. And I think all the pieces come together really nicely to make a nice little build, in addition to the minifigures that isn't the actual ATST. And I like how they do all the eyes and the antenna and whatnot on the head. So this was a fun little extra build to go along with this set that wasn't just a minifigure. Alright, and here is our final build for the Hoth ATST, and first impressions right off the bat, I really like how tall it is. Here you can kind of see in comparison with our ATST driver there, it's definitely bigger than past ATSTs, and you'll see in a minute I'm going to compare with the older ones as well. It's definitely taller than the other ones. The legs are a lot longer on this version. And as per usual with most ATST sets, not all as you'll see in a minute, but with this one here, you get your little head swivel with the help of the gears that are built into the base of the ATST and the little turning mechanism in the back here that you can see. And while we've got a side profile here, kinda, just want to show off the legs a little bit more. I really like the pieces that they use to kind of show off the mechanics, I guess, of the ATST, with this kind of beam here that goes onto the ball joints to add a little bit of like a musculature skeleton, I guess, to the legs of the ATST, just like it is in the movies. And like most ATSTs or other walkers from LEGO Star Wars, the legs are a bit posable here. However, I would not recommend it because she's very tippy. I don't even know if it'll stay without me helping it here. Very tippy. So I would not recommend doing that for displaying it. So as far as posable legs go, I would not consider that a very great feature on this set. But, you know, that's not really the bread and butter of this set, I would say. But if you do want to pose it, definitely be careful because it's pretty tippy when it does that. Now onto the head here, we have some nice posable guns on the sides, as well as a nice cockpit for our pilot up top here to go into. And the guns on the nose, or mouth here, I guess, are also posable. And you can see we have the little missiles here that you can shoot with the help of some pins in the back here that go through the head. Getting in a little bit closer here, let's take a look at some details on the head. The whole top comes up here, not just the little cockpit. The whole head, top comes off there, and then you can also kind of take apart the sides here a little bit. Let's take this front face piece off. So you can see inside here, there are kind of these red single stud pins that, in tandem with some pin connector pieces on the inside of the head, they just kind of sit in there. And for not being like a tight connection with actual pins, it sits in there really nice, and it's nice and snug. It doesn't really rattle at all, and it still then gives a nice angle to the face there. I feel like some previous ATSTs you'll see coming up here as well are very blocky, and this one gives a lot better of an angle on the face here through the use of those kind of pins to kind of sit in there a little bit without having to be completely straight on or at a real crazy angle either. It fits just at the kind of the right angle that you'd hope it to be. And just looking at one more detail before we move on to the comparison of all the ATSTs, I really like how this version did the feet by giving you lots of layers that kind of build up into kind of going into the leg joint. It gives a real nice shape to the feet as opposed to some older ones where it's just kind of a flat piece and then the leg goes right on it. The feet here really angle up and even kind of round a little bit with the use of these kind of triangular angled pieces here and all these tiles leading up into the rounded kind of hood piece. And then on the toes here as well, there's the rounded pieces that kind of bring it all together very nicely. And adding the kind of droid bodies and the droid arms as well here, just to give it a more mechanical look with some kind of gears and parts in there, gives it a real nice look all together. So here we have the three sets that we're going to compare. We have the 2022 version here on the left. In the middle we have the 2007 version, and then on the right we have the 2010 version, which came from the Battle of Endor playset. So the one on the right might be at a little bit of a disadvantage because it isn't just solely an ATST set. It was the Battle of Endor, so it had like a bunker and some other things come with it, but I'm still going to compare it nonetheless. So we've already talked about the 2022 version, so let's take a closer look at the 2007 version. So for starters, with the 2007 version, while the new version has 3 minifigures, this version only has 1, the lonely ATST driver here. So nothing too incredible here for minifigures on this set. However, being from 2007, it's actually a pretty good build. It's significantly smaller than the 2022 version, but altogether I think there's some great building tactics they did here. Just like the newest version of the ATST, it has a gear here to spin the head, so it's pretty standard stuff, like I said before, for an ATST, but I think it's good that they always include it. And the details on the legs on this ATST are pretty good, not as good as the newest one, but we have some nice like vent pieces and some kind of slanted pieces on the back and on the toes here to give it a nice detailed look, as well as these dishes to kind of show off kind of the joints. And then on the legs as well, there are these smaller 1x2 pieces with kind of a brim that does a nice job of keeping the legs posed where you want it to be. It doesn't go too far over and tip over on you because of those little pieces there. This set has posable guns on the side of the head as well, with kind of the grenade launcher on the left and the blaster on the right here. And then we also have some mouth cannons as well. They're a little bit shorter, but since this isn't the Hoth ATST, this is just a regular ATST, there are slight differences with them in the movies as well. I feel like the head on this version is a little blocky. You get a little bit of angles on kind of the top corners here, as well as on the chin, but I think overall it's just a little cubey to me, I guess. But for 2007, it's still a pretty good build. They added some angles in where they could, but for an older set, I think it does a pretty good job of still giving off that angle of the ATST face pretty well. And on the top, we get our little cockpit for our ATST driver in there. You can see that there's a seat and a little clip to hold a blaster, and then kind of a red piece to kind of simulate a screen that he'd be looking at. Next up we have our version from 2009 from the Battle of Endor set, and while it isn't the main attraction of this set, it actually does a pretty good job, especially with the face shape here. And as you can see, the head kind of turns on its own. It doesn't have a gear like the other sets, so it does a nice job kind of tapering at the face there. down to the mouth cannons, which I think are a little small compared to the other two. But I like this cannon on the right here that they kind of use the flick fire missiles for. That's a pretty nice use of those pieces there. And then on the other side, there's an actual flick fire missile for a cannon, which I know back in 2009, that kind of era of LEGO Star Wars, they were all the rave back then with flick fire missiles, and I'm glad they kind of leaned away from those recently. And while the head can turn on its own axis here, it doesn't have a gear like the other sets to turn it. You kind of have to move the head itself. However, there is still a gear on the back of this ATST, so you'd think it would be to move the head like the other ones. However, you can actually do this. Now, I'm not sure exactly who thought this was kind of a good use of a gear in the back here, because it's not like you can set it on a surface and kind of make it walk unless you do it like that, and that looks pretty stupid if you ask me. I would much rather have posable legs instead of these fixed in place Technic pieces that then make it goofy run like a cartoon character. But, you know, I think that's kind of the silliest part of this build. However, the head still does a great job of getting across that ATST shape. I think the legs are just kind of a little too silly for me. So after taking a look at all three, I think this set here, the 2022 version, takes the best things about these two sets here and kind of mashes them all up into one superior set for an ATST, I think. It takes the good face shape of this 2009 model, as well as the posable legs and nice gear turning head on the 2007 model, and puts it all together in the 2022 version quite nicely, I think. The legs on the 2009 version are just a little silly for me, and the head is a little bit too blocky on the 2007 version, so I think the 2022 version, if you're looking for an updated ATST model or don't have an ATST LEGO set at all, I think the 2022 version is definitely the best one to get. If you enjoyed this build, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for next time, where I'm going to be building some LEGO jewelry. Thanks for watching.